Hey, welcome everyone to Serenity House Impact. Today, I'm going to be discussing alcohol and the negative effects that it can have on our lives. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about different types of alcohol and how it affects our body and our brain, but more specifically, the adolescent brain. So, what is alcohol? Well, alcohol itself is created during a very complex biochemical process that breaks down different types of yeast. This yeast converts different types of sugars from certain food sources into ethanol, otherwise known as alcohol. There's actually different types of alcohol, like wine, which uses the sugar from grapes, beer uses barley, and liquor like vodka can use the sugar from things like potatoes, beets, or other plants. All of these products contain a certain level of ethanol, or alcohol content, but it can differ based off of each product. So, for instance, beer usually contains about 5% alcohol, wine about 12%, and liquor can have upwards to 40% alcohol. So at first glance, it may seem like liquor is the most potent out of all of these, but let me actually give you a little interesting fact. So it's important to understand serving size. So normally a can of beer will contain around 12 fluid ounces of liquid, and in that 12 fluid ounces is about 5% alcohol. Now a normal serving size of wine is about 5 fluid ounces, which contains around 12% alcohol. On the other hand, liquor such as vodka, whiskey, rum, or tequila is usually served in a shot glass, unless it's combined to make a mixed drink. But a normal serving size of liquor is considered to be about 1.5 fluid ounces of liquid, and in that 1.5 fluid ounces is 40% alcohol. Okay, so let's do some math really quick. If we look at a can of beer, which contains 12 fluid ounces of liquid, and we multiply that by the 5% alcohol in that can of beer, what number do we get? Well, we get 0.6% alcohol per volume. That's what we're going to label it. Now, if we look at the glass of wine, it's pretty much the same numbers, just reversed. So take 5 fluid ounces and multiply that by 12% alcohol. What do you get? 0.6% alcohol per volume. So you probably already see where this is going, but let's look at liquor. So if you take 1.5 fluid ounces of liquid and you multiply that by 40%, what do you get? 0.6% alcohol per volume. So as you can see, although each of these products contain different amounts of liquid, they all contain the same amount of alcohol per volume. This, however, is where a lot of the issues such as alcohol poisoning can take effect. Because if I end up doing a lot of shots of liquor, which in and of itself may not seem like a lot because of its size, can actually do a lot of damage to my body. Now, that doesn't mean that beer or wine are less harmful, because, again, they all contain the same amount of alcohol per volume, but that's what you have to remember. It's not about the size of the bottle, it's about how many drinks you're consuming. On that note, I want to talk really quickly about BAC, otherwise known as blood alcohol content. So for starters, it's important to note that everybody handles alcohol a little differently. There's a lot of factors in how fast someone can become intoxicated. Things like height, weight, and genetics all play a part in someone's BAC. BAC is just a calculation of how much alcohol is in your system, usually measured around 30 to 70 minutes after drinking. But on average, someone that has 2 drinks could already be at a BAC or blood alcohol content of 0.04%. At this stage, you could already be experiencing things like impaired judgment, loss of muscle control, slurred speech, reduced alertness, and even mood changes. But as I stated before, your BAC could differ based off of many things, including how full your stomach is before you actually start drinking. Having food in your stomach can change how quickly the alcohol gets into your system. This is why it's recommended not to drink on an empty stomach. Having a BAC at or above 0.08% falls into that category of binge drinking, meaning that a person continues to consume alcohol past the point of intoxication. This can also lead to an addictive behavior that causes more issues down the road. You could end up having things like liver and kidney failure or even brain damage. I hope you understand just how dangerous alcohol consumption can be, especially if you don't know how much is going into your body. Alcohol poisoning is a real issue, along with drunk driving and other related issues. In fact, approximately 95,000 people die from alcohol-related causes every year, making alcohol the 3rd leading cause of preventable death in the United States. And studies have actually shown that roughly 29% of high school students are drinking alcohol, and 14% of them are binge drinking, meaning that they're hitting that 0.08% BAC or higher. However, it's important to note here that this means that the majority of high school students are not drinking, and that's great news. And honestly, I would love to see those numbers go down even further, but the only way that's going to happen is if we continue to educate people on what alcohol does to the body. So, on that note, I want to talk about how alcohol actually affects the teenage brain. So, when drinking, there are multiple areas of the brain that are affected, such as the frontal lobes. This area of the brain controls your emotions and your impulses, but overall, it really just impacts your decision-making skills. This is why people who drink could end up making poor decisions, like deciding to drive while under the influence. Alcohol also affects the area of your brain known as the hippocampus. This area of the brain is basically just what helps you remember things. This is why drinking heavily or binge drinking could actually cause memory loss. This is also why you might not actually remember what you said or did while under the influence. Another area of the brain that's affected while drinking is your central nervous system. The central nervous system sends messages all throughout your body and basically correlates to a person's responsiveness. This means that if you're under the influence of alcohol, your response time is a lot slower, meaning that you could be caught in a situation where you need to respond quickly, but because you've been drinking, your response time is a lot slower, meaning you could get hurt or you could potentially hurt other people. Now, the hypothalamus is also targeted while drinking, and this area of the brain controls things like blood pressure, body temperature, and your heart rate, but it also controls your kidneys. You see, when you drink, the hypothalamus doesn't function like it normally should, because normally the hypothalamus tells the body to absorb water, but while drinking, it doesn't do that. This means you could end up going to the bathroom more often. But this also leads to things like dehydration. This is what causes people to feel weak or have a headache the morning after, otherwise known as a hangover. Now, another key area of the brain that's affected while drinking is the cerebellum. This basically controls your coordination and awareness. This means that if you're under the influence, you're more likely to trip, fall, or swerve while driving. All of these areas of the brain are vital to our everyday lives. If someone chooses to partake in drinking heavily or binge drinking, they could potentially be doing permanent damage to these areas of the brain. In fact, I want to share with you all these brain scans. So what you're looking at here is a healthy brain versus an alcoholic's brain. There's some pretty clear differences when you look at these pictures. And no, there's not actual holes in the alcoholic's brain. What you're seeing here with the areas that look like holes that are just darker spots are basically areas of the brain that have been affected over long-term use of drinking alcohol. These areas of the brain, like the ones that I talked about earlier, actually start to shrink and they receive less blood flow. So when you're looking at them on the scan, it appears that there's nothing there. Now, another factor that can play a huge part in this is what age someone is when they start drinking. I've mentioned in other videos that the brain continues to grow and develop up into the mid-20s, around age 25. So when someone begins drinking before their brain is fully developed, you can be certain that the damage will be more severe. So obviously drinking can be very harmful to our body, especially if someone becomes addicted to it. Because this could lead to things like binge drinking, alcohol poisoning, kidney and liver failure, brain damage, or even death. So I want to take some time and talk through why someone may actually choose to drink alcohol. So alcohol is what's known as a depressant, meaning that it affects the central nervous system by slowing things down, like the heart rate and the respiratory system. This can make a person feel more relaxed, peaceful, and even sleepy. But much like a stimulant, a depressant can also make someone have feelings of euphoria or pleasure. So if someone is really stressed or anxious, or maybe they've just had a really long day and they're tired, it kind of makes sense why someone might choose to drink alcohol as their source of comfort, because it's going to basically make them feel a little better. While drinking alcohol, it actually affects the chemicals in your brain. It releases the hormone known as dopamine, which does cause you to feel a sense of pleasure. However, it's important to note that over time, if you continue to binge drink, you will actually lower and deplete the amount of dopamine in your system. This can lead to things like tolerance. This means that someone may drink even more because they're trying to experience the effects of alcohol. So drinking to cope with anxiety or stress is never a healthy solution. A better alternative would be to seek the advice of maybe a doctor or a counselor. Maybe the amount of stress you feel is minor and it could actually go away with things like exercise, meditation, or even yoga. There are so many ways to deal with stress and anxiety, and alcohol is not the solution. But there are plenty of people that drink just for the experience or the social aspect. Many people could find themselves drinking because they're at a party or a bar and now they feel pressured or obligated to drink. Peer pressure and underage drinking tend to go hand in hand. And finding yourself in a situation where you feel obligated to drink or pressured can be a scary one. I would hate for you to find yourself in a situation like this unprepared. So I want to give you some words of advice that may come in handy. So here's a few things that I would suggest that you learn now. Number 1, learn to say no. Now, I know that saying no can sound cliche, but the truth is you don't have to take or do what someone's giving you. You have the ability to choose what you do. So don't be afraid to say no. You could also just walk away from that situation or don't even put yourself in that situation to begin with. Like, if it feels wrong, trust your gut. Because let me paint you a little scenario. Let's just say that you got invited to a party and now you're at your friend's house, or maybe it's a complete stranger's house, but you're now stuck at this house. Well, you've decided that you're not going to drink, but everyone else is. Okay, I mean, that's good for you, but what if a fight breaks out and now the cops are getting called and you're stuck at this party? Well, you're probably still going to get in trouble because you're at a party with underage drinkers. So just because you weren't drinking doesn't mean that there aren't consequences. Being put in that situation is not a fun one. So don't put yourself in that situation to begin with. Maybe what you need is an excuse. So if you're invited to that party, make a valid excuse as to why you can't go. Maybe say something like, I have a test tomorrow I really got to study for, I'm sorry I can't go. Or you could say something like, I'm going out of town that weekend, so I won't be able to make it. Maybe you could just say, I'm grounded. Whatever works for you, but giving an excuse tends to give you an easy way out rather than just saying no. I would also recommend that you have a secret code with someone that you trust, like a parent or a guardian. Having this secret code with this person could end up getting you out of a bad situation if you needed that help. So for instance, your secret code could be the pineapple emoji, and you could send this to your parent and it lets them know that you need their help. This way, if you ever find yourself stuck in a situation like at that party, or maybe your friend is convincing you to drink, you can send that pineapple emoji to your parent and they know that means that you need their help. They can respond with something like, I need you to come home right now, or where are you? I'm gonna come and pick you up. This way you can tell your friend, sorry, my mom is needing me to come home. Maybe we can do this another time, but don't do it another time. So having this form of communication with your parents or a guardian is so important because you never know when you're gonna be in a situation where you might need their help. So I would encourage you to talk with your parents and maybe come up with different scenarios and think about different ways that you could handle it. It's always important to be more prepared than not. So make sure that you are actually discussing these things with someone that you trust. Now, one more thing that I want you to be aware of if you ever find yourself in a situation where someone has passed out due to drinking, please do not just leave them there. I've already informed you of how the brain and the body can start to shut down due to binge drinking. So if you find someone has passed out because of drinking and now they're unconscious, you need to get help. You need to call 911. And I know that calling 911 can seem scary, especially if you're underage drinking, but this is someone's life on the line. And when it comes to people's lives, nothing is more valuable. I want you to know that there's actually a law set in place to help protect you if you're ever in this situation. It's called the Good Samaritan Law. This law offers limited protection to someone who attempts to help a person who may be in distress. This means that if you call the police to help someone who is passed out due to drinking and is now unconscious, you are technically protected under the Good Samaritan Law. Now, you may still get in trouble with your parents or the school, but you saved a life. Also, just to note, if you do see someone that's passed out and they're laying on their back, turn them on their side. This way it prevents them from choking if they end up throwing up, because if they're laying on their back and they throw up, I don't think I have to explain any further. So turn them on their side. And also call 911 if they're unresponsive. Now, again, I hope that you never find yourself in this situation, but I would rather you be prepared than unprepared. So that's why I'm telling you. So, really important question that I want to ask you now. Why do you want to drink? Or more importantly, why would you want to get drunk? Is it maybe that you have this escape from reality? Or maybe you just feel like it's fun? Maybe you also think that it's the norm, like if you're drinking, then you're supposed to get drunk. Whatever your reason is for drinking, and especially drinking to get drunk, remember that it's not a healthy way to cope with stress or anxiety. Now, you may think that it's fun or seems like fun, but just note that you could always put yourself in a situation where you could end up hurting yourself or someone else. The truth is, getting drunk is not normal. Drinking to the point of intoxication is an addictive behavior, and underage drinking is not only illegal, but it will damage your brain. Now, look, I'm not trying to scare you, but I am trying to prepare you, because we need to be aware of the dangers of drinking alcohol. Because the more educated you are, just means that you're less likely to end up in a situation where you might make a bad choice. So please take my advice today and apply it to your life and help educate other people as well. Because your life is a valuable thing, and you should treat it with the respect it deserves. Take care of your body, take care of your brain, and make healthy choices. I would encourage you to share this information with the people around you. And if you know of anyone that's struggling with an addiction, I'm going to be linking in the description box down below our website, as well as all the sources that I used in this video. But here you're going to find more information on how to receive care and treatment for those that may be struggling with an addiction. I would also just encourage you to share this video with your friends and your parents, because the more we educate ourselves, the more lives we save. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and until next time, y'all take care.